Welcome everyone to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. I am your host Sean McGahee, and this is a show where we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. You can listen to Dayspring Discussions on iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic, Patreon, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever, guys. While you're there, rate, review, subscribe, then head on over to the Facebook group or Twitter account and join in the discussion. Don't forget, dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. If you have a question or comment, leave it there. Well, hello, everyone. It is time for another exciting installment of Dayspring Discussions Book Reports Star Wars Editions. And of course, I can never do a book report about Star Wars without talking to the ultimate Star Wars bookworm, Miss Lisa McGahee.
Yes.
All right, guys. So, if this is your first time, Lisa has been rereading the Star Wars canon novels in chronological order, and we are up to a very important book by today's standards.
Especially in what's going on today in Star Wars.
Exactly, which is Ahsoka by E.K. Johnston. Now, E.K. Johnston, no freshman in Star Wars writing. She wrote one of the passages from a certain point of view. She's written Queen's Shadow, and she's writing the follow-up, Queen's Peril, right? So yeah, and this one, Ahsoka, very significant book, I think, for a lot of people, because it tells what happens to Ahsoka post-Clone Wars, which we're seeing right now on Disney+, what, Clone Wars is going to pan out for her. So Lisa, I'm just going to hand it over to you. What's this book about?
Basically this book starts immediately. The very first, chapter or prologue, I guess it is, of the book is what's happening exactly right now in the Clone Wars TV show. The prologue of this book is the Battle of Mandalore. It's her basically there surviving and Rex surviving and her trying to figure out what she's going to do, thinking that all the Jedi are dead, not being able to feel them in the Force anymore. And feeling the drastic change in the Force. So basically, I think it's super interesting to read this again right now, just because they just started
Siege of Mandalore.
The Siege of Mandalore in the new Clone Wars episode. So this book basically starts right where that's going to leave off. So it's really cool rereading this right now. However, then it kind of jumps forward a year. Chapter 1 starts exactly a year after that, because it starts on Empire Day, the first Empire Day.
Okay.
So exactly 1 year after that is where the story actually starts. And it's basically it's the overall, story of the book is Ahsoka trying to figure out how she fits into the galaxy now, because trying to figure out, very similar to things we've learned about Kanan too, is trying to figure out how to suppress her Force abilities, because she doesn't want to show that, because she knows the Empire is still hunting Jedi. She is pretty sure that they think she's dead, but she doesn't know if they believed it. So it's kind of her trying to figure out where she belongs, how to be herself without being a Jedi. She has a lot of internal debate about what she should do. At what point does she act like somebody normal? At what level can she use the Force? At what level should she use the Force? What should she do? How should she proceed? Who should she trust? Should she let people in? Should she be honest with people? So, there's a lot of interesting bits of that, just her trying to come to terms, and just the pain. She struggles a lot in this still with the pain of losing everyone she knew, basically. Essentially when you join the Jedi Order, they become your family. She talks, there's some flashbacks here to, when she was taken from her home planet to go be with the Jedi, things she remembers. She has lots of memories of Plo Koon, of, obviously of Obi-Wan and Anakin. And so, she struggles a lot in this one with just her pain, the overwhelming grief of having the Force feel so empty right now. So, there's a lot of really interesting, things she kind of thinks about there. Plus, there's a little bit about her discovering some, force sensitive child and not knowing what's, kind of feeling the pain for her too. And that, she realizes this little girl now who uses the force and is force sensitive doesn't have anyone to train her and teach her. And so she kind of feels the pain for what that little girl is missing. If you've watched Rebels, this kind of plays a little bit into that because you meet the Inquisitors. So you kind of get that first discovery of the Inquisitors and what they're, that they're basically in the galaxy looking for force-sensitive children, where Ahsoka doesn't know why, and that worries her, but also hunting any remaining Jedi that are left. So there's, that little interesting piece that kind of flits in here. You also get a little bit of where Ahsoka decide, kind of her coming to terms with the fact that she can't pretend she's not, a Jedi, and how she goes about that. And then ultimately, you at the end of the book, you find how she joins the rebellion.
Yeah.
How Bail Organa finds her and kind of recruits her to be the character that we discover in Rebels, where she becomes Fulcrum.
Yeah, pretty much where we find her at the beginning of, Rebels, or when she first appears at the end of season 1 of Rebels, how she got to that point.
Yeah, the end of this story is basically her joining the rebellion.
Exactly. And we come to find out how she got the white lightsabers as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey here, too, when she decides to accept, that she is still a Jedi. When the Inquisitors present themselves and she realizes that she is going to always be hunted, she can't just hide. There's no point. You can't just hide. They will continue to find you. So she realizes she needs her lightsabers, but she can't just go back for hers. So she has to create new lightsabers. And so they talk a little bit, and this kind of goes into also the next one, book I'm going to be going into, which is Catalyst. This has a little bit of talk about the Kyber crystals. Yes. She goes back to Ilum, which is where the Jedi used to go for their crystals, and finds that it's been basically farmed and destroyed, which we find out more about that in I think we find out more about that in Catalyst. She has to find her crystals some other way. So she, and especially if you did watch the Clone Wars, she mentions the basically the episode of Clone Wars where she takes the younglings to Ilum to find their stones, their crystals. But her quest for her crystals, and ultimately she ends up finding her crystals, her 2 new crystals, and then creating her white lightsabers. So,
and one of those things too, granted, of course, right now with Disney Plus, the final episodes of Clone Wars, we're getting to season Mandalore, but some of us who have read this book are, kind of a little spoiled because we know how it's going to end. Where they don't give like details, but in a broad sense, we know how Ahsoka ends. We know how Maul ends.
Well, this doesn't talk about Maul at all.
Yeah, well, it does. Even the description on Wikipedia, it says what happens.
They don't in the book. They don't really talk about Maul. He doesn't die.
Yeah.
He escapes. But they don't go any details in this into how that happens. You just know that she and Rex survive. They don't explain even how.
Which, that's one of those things too. Is of course getting off topic a little bit. Is if you've seen the this last episode of Clone Wars, you're good. If you haven't, it's just a minor spoiler where Anakin and Obi-Wan go off to save the Chancellor. Essentially, episode 3, the events, while Rex is promoted so that he can take a division of Anakin's 501st. Pretty much really under Ahsoka's leadership, and go help the Mandalorians, go help Bo-Katan for that. And I like how, these last 3 episodes, it's going to take place, during the events of Revenge of the Sith. So there's going to be no Obi-Wan, there'll be no Anakin, there'll be no Padme, It's going to be Rex and Ahsoka.
Right. And then we're going to find out now, finally, how Ahsoka survived, how she survived the clones that were there. And why did Rex not turn on her? She finds out about the chip. So because there's this is a whole side.
It's all right. We're going into it. Let's do it.
Well, she mentions in this about the chip, about how the clones turned on the Jedi that they had been they were friends that they had been serving with for years, and they had friendships. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of the parts that's always gotten to me about episode 3 is when Cody turns on Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like when you first watch the movie, you're like, okay, well, he turns on him fine.
Right, but
then you go
Right.
through Clone Wars
and you realize how close him and Cody
Yeah.
were. And then for Cody to be able to just turn on him like that, like going back and watching episode 3 after you've watched the Clone Wars,
Yeah.
it really hits you right there,
yeah.
when Cody turns on him.
Yeah.
And so she does talk about the chips and how the chip, these clones that were their friends, and how a chip in there could make them do this. But they don't explain how she knows that. But the only way she could would be if Rex had told her, which means Rex must know about it.
Yeah, Rex. I mean, I think the assumption is that Rex knew about it after those episodes in season 6,
and that he removed his chip somehow.
Yeah, exactly. That
but
made
not
him,
just his.
Yeah,
other people's
his
too.
and his other 2 friends or whatever. Yeah.
Right. But they don't explain. I mean, in this one, you don't get that explanation, but you know that she and Rex survived. But yeah, I mean, it's just, it's really, I really like this book. I mean, I liked it better. The first time I read it, I was kind of like, meh, I think I was expecting something different.
Yeah.
But going back and reading it again, especially, after watching the Clone Wars and watching Rebels again, and just kind of getting a better sense of the situation, I think I like it better the more that I read it.
Yeah, I think so. Because more information we get about Ahsoka and her, post Clone Wars or whatever, how she ends up, I think, it will be a more enjoyable book to read. I mean, I thought it was okay. It wasn't one of my favorites. I liked, of course, learning about, what was happening to Ahsoka and how she got to the beginning of Rebels and stuff like that. As a broad sense of story, I'm like, it's all right, it's okay. I thought it was cool how she got her lightsabers, hunted by Inquisitors. Anyway, but yes, so the cool thing about this one, too, is, of course, the audiobook read by Ashley Eckstein herself, who does the voice of Ahsoka for many, many years now. So that's pretty cool. And, of course, talking about another E.K. Johnston book, Queen's Shadow, which we mentioned, that's read by the girl who does Padme's voice in the Clone Wars. And then she's also going to be doing the audiobook for Queen's Peril coming up, too. So that's pretty cool, how they get the characters like that. We were talking, I think it was, a few months ago, we were talking about, what was coming up in Star Wars and the Clone Wars book they have coming up or whatever. I was like, it'd be great if they get D. Bradley Baker to read all the clone voices for that one.
That would be hilarious.
That would be super cool to do that too. But yeah, overall, Ahsoka, I thought it was good. So where do you rank it?
Stop asking me that.
I'm going to ask you every time because you need a frame of reference.
I don't know. I like it. I give it 1.5 thumbs up.
1.5 thumbs. So not 2 thumbs up.
No, I mean, it's not my favorite, but it's not my least favorite either. I like it somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, of course. Last week we did Dark Disciple and you gave that 2 thumbs up. So.
I like this one not as much as Dark Disciple.
Okay.
But cool. I still do like this story. It's not my favorite. But again, it's not my least favorite.
Fair enough. Cool. All right, guys. Well, that is Ahsoka. If you've read the book, fire back in those social media groups and Gmail account. Let us know what you think. Next week, Rogue One Catalyst, right?
Yeah, Catalyst. It's Catalyst.
Catalyst?
A Rogue One story.
There we go. Okay, great. By James Luceno, who is my favorite Star Wars writer still to this date.
Yes.
He's a great one.
He also wrote Tarkin, right?
He wrote Tarkin, he did, and he wrote Plagueis as
which
well.
is not canon.
Which is not canon. Another non-canon one that I love, which is Labyrinth of Evil, which is a prequel to Episode 3, which, again, it's legend, so no longer counts. But either way, Luceno needs to write more Star Wars,
Plagueis
I'll tell you that.
is so good. I wish it was canon.
All right, well, that is it for us today, guys. Hope you are good out there. We'll see you next time. And until then, may the Force be with us all.